I'm Dragon. Today I'm going to show you how to make a pogo stick in Blender. And if you want to see how to make a different outdoor toy, I also have a tutorial on a trampoline. But without any further ado, let's hop into this tutorial. First, add a circle. I personally changed the radius to 2 meters. Not really going to scale, but I just want it to be easier to see. Now start extruding upward, but only a little bit, and then hit E again for extrude, then S to scale inward a little bit, because this is the lip of the bottom of the pogo stick. Then extrude upward again, but a little farther, and then do the same thing with E to extrude and S to scale inward, because this is the base of the pogo stick where you jump on. Then extrude upward, stop, extrude upward, stop, and extrude upward again. Then I personally go back and bevel the bottom of the pogo stick, but you can do this later if you want to. Then in the middle of the pogo stick, select those faces and duplicate them. Then use S and then Shift Z to limit the scale on the X and Y axis. Then hit E for extrude and then S to scale, and then Shift C to limit it on the X and Y axis again and bring it outward. You could also hit Option E and extrude along normals instead though. Then select the sides and hit E to extrude it outward a little bit and then scale it inward, and then hit E again to extrude it with it being smaller. Then select the entire sphere with L and then go into top view and then hit Shift Z for a wireframe view, and then hit Control to deselect half of it and hit X to delete that half. Then hit L on that half and then hit P to separate it into a different object, and then add the mirror modifier to that object. Then select those extruded faces, then hit S, X to limit it on the X axis, and 0 to flatten it. With those faces still selected, hit Shift S and cursor to selected. Then add a circle, and change the radius to 1.1. At least that's what I did personally. Then extrude the circle and match it to the faces that we extruded earlier. Then go into top mode and hit Shift Z and select some of those vertexes and delete them, at least the ones closest to the faces. Then connect it to those faces so that it's an actually complete thing. Then select that circle's faces and duplicate them and scale them inward. Then hit Command D and bridge edge loops. Now select the sides of this circle and extrude it outward and shape the thing that we actually stand on by continually to use extruding and scaling. Then select the inside of the circle, duplicate it, and scale it along the Z-axis. Then scale it inward a little bit so it's not quite touching this circle. Then move it upward most of the way and Command R to add a loop cut, and move the loop cut so it's almost at the same spot as where the original circle is. Then select those faces above the loop cut and extrude them and scale them outward. Then select the top inward vertexes and delete them. Then select the other top vertexes and move it upward. Then select the top ones again, extrude them inward, and extrude them upward. Then select the faces beneath the thin beam and duplicate them and scale them outward a little bit. Then extrude them outward so that they are bigger. What is this? Well, it's the foam. Then select the foam and hit P to separate it into a different object. Now select both the big beam and the little beam and go into edit mode on both of them. Then select the top vertexes and duplicate them and hit P to separate it into a different object. Then hit Command J to join those circles. Then go into edit mode and scale them ever so slightly outward using individual origins. And now with them still selected, hit E and scale to extrude them outward and scale them a decent ways outward. Then select the one whole circle and half of the big one and delete them, and then go add a mirror modifier. After this, connect the big sphere and the little sphere together. Then hit A to select the whole thing and extrude it upward. Now select the side of the smallest circle and hit O for proportional editing. To increase the effect of proportional editing, scroll on the mouse bar or trackpad, and then move it upward. Now select the big beam, select the top vertexes, and move it upward, just barely poking above the thing we just made. And then hit F to fill the face. Now get a small ring around the big beam. Then use the array modifier and change the factor of x to 0 and the z to 1. Then change the count until it gets to the very top. Now apply the array modifier, delete the top ring, and move the final ring to almost the top. Now select the small beam and the top vertexes and move it upward out of the cover. Now add a loop cut and move it slightly above the cover. Now select the faces above the loop cut and extrude them outward. Now shape it like a pogo stick handlebar. Now select the inside vertexes of the handlebar and hit F to fill it and extrude it outward a little bit. To create the grips in the handlebar, you can select the underneath faces of the handlebar and then extrude them upward a little bit. Now shade everything smooth and remember to hit auto smooth. While I was shading everything smooth, I found one thing that I needed to do: create the cap on the bottom. To do this, you can just take the vertexes from the bottom of the pogo stick, duplicate them and scale them inward, and then extrude it outward, move it downward a little bit, and bevel the edges, and then shade it smooth. There is also another optional feature, which is adding texture to the things that you stand on. To do this, I simply deleted the top faces, then selected the top vertexes that were left, and extruded them inward. Then I hit F to fill the face. Then I created extra geometry on the edge by using the subdivide tool, and then I simply connected the geometry on both sides and extruded every other face downward. Well, there you have it. Hopefully you have a pogo stick now. Well, now to coloring. For coloring, I added simple textures using the Principled BASDF node, other than the foam, which I made this texture. Well, there we have it. We now have a fully complete pogo stick. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!